I'll tell you, I almost did not go out tonight. It is that kind of cool autumn evening that comes right after the first snow melts away. The sidewalks are a little wet, and the leaves lie on the ground like soggy old postcards. The kind of night that makes you think, maybe I will just stay in my chair. But then I took a breath, a deep, cool breath, and I thought, come on now, these legs still work. Slow as molasses sometimes, but they work. So I pulled on my jacket, opened the door, and eased myself outside for a small walk, just around the block, just enough to remind myself that I am still here. The air smelled like wet leaves and chimney smoke, the kind of smell you only get after the first real cold snap. It settles into your chest in a steady way, sharp at first, then warm. I stepped careful on the sidewalk. The ground felt soft and a little slippery, not crunchy like early fall, an early November when the cold settles in. But winter has not quite made up its mind. A squirrel dashed across the path, tail held high like it owned the whole street. I could not help but smile. Funny little things. Then I heard them, geese flying overhead, honking and talking like old friends who cannot agree on directions. I stopped for a moment and looked up. Their wings made a slow, gentle sound in the air. I always liked that sound. A big old Buick rolled by, boxy and steady. It made me think of my buddy's first car. He used to swing by and pick us up, windows cracked, radio low, humming like he was trying to join the band. Good memories, good people. Up ahead, the church on the corner glowed warm from the inside. Golden light spilled through the windows. It reminded me of evening services from years ago when we would sit in the pews with friends, listening to music, letting the calm settle over us. There was a kind of peace in those nights that is hard to explain, but easy to feel. Down the street was the old schoolyard, quiet now. But I remember running across that field when I was young, bare feet in the summer grass, laughing so loud it bounced off the houses. My mother calling me in later on, her hair smelling like flowers when she hugged me goodnight. My father resting his hand on my shoulder, steady and sure. Simple moments, but they stay with you. A streetlight buzzed on, and the whole evening seemed to take a slow, gentle breath. Time to head home. My steps were slow, but they were mine. Still got a little life in these legs. Thank God for that. Back inside, I settled into my favorite chair, the one that fits me like an old friend. I pulled a soft blanket over my knees and wrapped my hands around a warm cup of sleepy time tea. The TV hummed low in the background, not to watch, just to keep me company. In that quiet moment, I felt safe. I felt calm, and before my eyes grew heavy, I whispered a small prayer, a simple thank you for the walk, for the breath in my lungs, and for another peaceful night.
I always liked Saturday nights. There was a calm that settled over the house once supper was done and the dishes were put away. The kind of evening that made you breathe a little deeper and start getting ready for Sunday. I would sit on the edge of my bed with the lamp on low and think about what to wear in the morning. Nothing too fancy, just something clean, something pressed, something that helped me feel my best. I would take my Bible from the top drawer and place it on the chair with what I chose for the next day. That small routine always gave me a sense of peace. Sometimes, if the night was still, I could hear faint sounds from the church. A piano chord drifting through an open door, a quiet laugh, someone practicing a hymn. Those sounds took me back to the evening services of my youth, walking in with friends, trying to settle once the music started. feeling the warm light of the room wrap around us. I always liked the sound of an organ in a quiet church. Steady, patient, almost like the building itself was breathing. Even now, a single soft note can bring those memories back, gentle and warm. Across the street, I could see the glow of a family having dinner behind semi-opaque curtains. Just shapes, soft light, and the comfort of knowing life moved gently around me. When they closed their curtains, the whole street seemed to fall into rest. I looked at the shoes I had taken out earlier, sitting beneath the chair where my Bible rested. They caught a bit of the lamp's gold, simple and ready, enough for tomorrow. Outside, the dark settled in slowly. Streetlights hummed to life. The world softened. It felt like everyone was winding down in their own quiet way. I opened my Bible again and read just a few lines. Something steady, something kind, enough to settle my mind before bed, the same way it always had. When I set it down, I let the quiet fill the room. I could almost hear the echo of old evening hymns, soft and low, rising and falling like a gentle wave. I let the memory warm me for a moment. I closed my eyes and whispered a small thank you for the calm, for the peace, for the comfort of being ready for tomorrow. Then I turned off the lamp, pulled the blanket over my legs, and let the night carry me into rest.
I have to say, evenings feel a little easier when Bailey is around. Funny how a small creature can fill up a whole room with comfort, even without saying a single word. I sank into my chair after supper, the one that knows my shape, and before I even got myself settled, I heard the soft sound of paws on the floor. Bailey always announces himself in his own way. Not loud, not rushing, just a gentle little click on the floorboards, steady and sure. Then he pauses, like he is deciding where he wants to be. Near me, of course. He always chooses near. I looked down and there he was, sitting close and studying me with those big, patient eyes. He has a little collar with a tag that shines when the lamp hits it, and a small toy beside the water dish that he carries everywhere. Sometimes he drops it near my foot, like it is his way of saying, I am here, and I brought you something. He circles once, maybe twice, then settles right by my feet. Sometimes he curls up, sometimes he stretches out long, like he is claiming his spot for the night. I can feel the warmth of him on my ankles, steady and calm. It makes the whole room feel softer. I reach down and give him a slow scratch behind the ear. He leans into my hand like he has been waiting for that all day. No rush, no fuss, just easy company. The house is quiet, except for the faint sound of his breathing and the little jingle of his tag. When he shifts, the lamp beside us glows warm and golden, and the light makes the shadows drift slow across the room. It is the kind of quiet that reminds you to breathe a little deeper. Sometimes I think back to other animals I loved over the years, but only in a gentle way. No heavy memories, just small flashes like old photographs. A paw on my knee, a wagging tail, a soft purr against my hand. Bailey feels like all of them at once sometimes, like he carries their kindness inside him. He always knows when I am tired. He lifts his head, gives me a look that says, I'm right here, and then settles again. I can tell he is drifting off because his breathing slows into that soft rhythm that almost sounds like a lullaby. I pull a blanket over my legs and let my body sink a little deeper into the chair. The TV hums quietly in the background. Nothing important. Just sound to fill the space so the house does not feel empty. Bailey lets out a tiny sigh, the kind that bubbles up from deep sleep. That sound always makes me smile. There is something peaceful about knowing a little. Creature trusts you enough to fall asleep at your feet. So I close my eyes for a moment. I let the warmth of him settle over me, and I let the day fall away. I whisper a small thank you under my breath for this quiet room, for this steady comfort, and for the simple gift of not being alone tonight.
The kitchen always felt fullest after supper. All evening long, it carried the sounds of life. Chairs scraping back from the table, someone laughing in the doorway, dishes clinking as everyone tried to help at once. It was a warm kind of bustle, the kind that told you the house was alive. I remember those nights clearly. Kids running through with socks sliding on the floor, someone asking where the leftover bread went, someone else trying to sneak an extra cookie. Voices rising and falling like a little song only our family knew. Those were good evenings. Busy but good. Tonight the house is quieter, but the kitchen still holds that feeling. I wiped down the counter the way I always used to, slow and steady. The cloth moved in small circles, and the motion reminded me of all the hands that once helped at this very spot. Tiny hands, tired hands, loving hands. The smell of supper lingered in the air, warm and familiar. I rinsed the dishes and placed them in the rack. When my children were young, someone would always fuss about not wanting to take turns washing. But they did it anyway. We always found a rhythm, even if we grumbled through it. It made us close, in that quiet family way. The hallway light reached into the kitchen, and I glanced toward the bedrooms like I used to. I could almost see little heads poking out from under blankets, waiting for me to check on them. Every night, I would tuck them in, smooth the blankets over their shoulders, and listen to the small, tired stories they whispered before falling asleep. Those memories glow soft now, like warm light through a curtain. I poured myself a small cup of sleepy time tea and held it between my hands. Steam curled up gently, the way it used to when I sat at the same table waiting for the house to settle. Back then, I would listen for the last bedroom door to close before letting my shoulders relax. Now the house is quieter, but the peace is still here. I sat in my old chair, the same one that once held homework papers, crayons, school forms, and birthday cards. The kitchen clock ticked softly above me. The refrigerator hummed, little home sounds that had been here all along, even in the noisiest days. As I sipped my tea, I thought of the moments that always made evenings special. Stirring a pot while someone told me about their day. Hearing footsteps race toward the table when supper was ready. Watching tired eyes grow softer as the night came in. Every bit of it is tucked inside this room. When my tea was done, I stood up and turned off the kitchen light. Only the hallway glow remained, the kind of light that makes the house feel safe. Before I walked away, I took one more look around. A clean table, a quiet sink, a room that once held the whole story of our evenings and somehow still does. I whispered a small thank you for the life lived in this kitchen, for the family it fed, for the peace that still rises here at the end of the day.
It was raining the night I stayed over at my grandparents' house. Not a loud rain, just the soft kind that taps on the windows like gentle little fingers. It made the whole house feel warm and safe. The living room lamps were on, glowing that gentle yellow light that makes everything softer. I could smell something warm drifting from the kitchen. Maybe it was vanilla from a cake cooling on the counter. Maybe it was the last of the cookies from earlier. Either way, it was the kind of smell that wrapped around you like comfort. I could hear the murmur of the TV in the background. Sometimes it was the news, old westerns, sometimes sports, sometimes the quiet clink of a cold drink being opened, the soft crack of a cap or the hiss of a can. Little sounds that let me know the evening had settled in. The room felt cozy, blankets folded on the arm of the couch. A clock ticking softly on the wall. A cup placed carefully on a coaster. Simple things that made the house feel full even on calm nights. A quilt was draped over my legs, the one made long ago with squares of every color. The hands that placed it there moved slowly, smoothing the edges, tucking it just right. It felt like a hug you could fall asleep inside. As my eyes grew heavy, I heard a warm voice ask, "Are you ready for bed?" There was never any rush. Bedtime at my grandparents' house always felt gentle, like the night was waiting for me. A steady hand held mine as we walked down the hallway. The air smelled like clean sheets and a little bit of lavender, the kind that stays in the air after laundry is folded. I climbed into bed, and the blankets felt cool at first, then soft and warm all around me. A familiar hand brushed my hair back from my face, slow and caring. Another hand pulled the quilt up around my shoulders. They told me they would leave the door open a little so I could hear the rain. I said good night, and they answered back in voices that felt like safety. Their footsteps drifted down the hall, soft and unhurried, the way the whole house always moved at night. I listened to the rain tapping on the window, the quiet hum of the house, the steady comfort of being here, and I whispered to myself, I love it at my grandparents' place. It feels safe, it feels warm, it feels like love filling the whole room.